Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Fearless and Fabulous podcast. I am your host and creator, Melanie Robinson. It is a special edition because as we're recording, it's the 4th of July here in the USA. So I'm wearing a t-shirt with some fireworks on it. And I know it was just Canada Day, where my guest is from. So we got a lot to celebrate. And my guest today is the fabulous Jane Nicholson. And she is here to tell us how she is thriving no matter her age or size. That's our mantra of this podcast. And she is also the Royal International Ms. Canada, and she's going to her pageant very soon for Royal International Miss. Say hello to everybody, Jane.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat with you.
I am so excited to have you. So, just to give you all a little background of how I know Jane, she and I had the same pageant coach. Shout out to Maria of the Pageant Gal. She is your coach to go to if you ever need somebody, not just for pageantry, but also for just life. She's so good at helping you to elevate your own life. And so that's how she and I connected, and we've been helping each other out prep for our own pageants. And I wanted to have her on our podcast because she has an amazing platform and such a great message, and I know she's going to uplift you all. So, how about you introduce yourself a bit, Jane, and then tell us a bit about what your platform is?
Yeah, totally. So I am a 28-year-old entrepreneur from the small province of Nova Scotia, which is in my country of Canada. I've been a full-time videographer with my company, Arrow and Knot Productions, for the past 8 years, which is so crazy. I'm also a volunteer with Motivate Canada, which is a national organization that gives youth from across Canada skill building workshops and shows them why going out into your community is so important. And in my spare time, you can find me at the gym doing Olympic style weightlifting, which I've also been doing for the past 8 years.
Yeah.
You can traveling. I'm obsessed with traveling, or you can find me on my couch with my 3-year-old daughter, who is a corgi named Priscilla. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. And then going into my platform is called the Working Women's Movement. And I founded it in 2022, and I host workshops and online spaces to give women the tools and confidence to conquer their careers. And I've gained partnerships with Dress for Success, Motivate Canada, of course, and the Dream Project in the Dominican Republic. And I've been able to impact over 3,000 women and young adults globally through this. And it kind of came about because the working women's movement actually kind of recently went through a transformation because a couple of years ago, I knew I started it because I was a female entrepreneur in a male dominated industry like videography. And I was really struggling with always questioning myself. I just needed like a big confidence boost. So I thought, what a better way to bring together all these different women in business and have a safe space where we can hype each other up. We can ask each other about SEOs, about dealing with the TikTok algorithm, all of
Yeah.
the things, but it'd be a safe space. And then I was very female entrepreneur based. But then I realized I was like, I had partnership with Dress for Success. Like I do all these things for just career women in general. And I'm like, why? Like, why? Like I needed to connect. And then I reflected and I was like, I'm so passionate about making women successful in their careers and be able to financially provide for themselves because I grew up in a low income home and I know the struggles that so many people face, and taking the skills that I've learned over the years and being able to give it to women through workshops or my online space has been so rewarding. So yeah, it's been a little bit of a transformation, but I couldn't be happier with where my platform is today.
You know, when you're talking about your passion and your platform, I just thought, wow, like you are such a force of nature, Jane. And I have loved watching your journey and getting to know you. And please, everyone, please forgive me. My microphone is not in the right space. So if you keep seeing it flash on, I apologize. Like, these virtual backgrounds sometimes do crazy things. But one thing I was really interested in finding out more about you is what is it about videography where you realize that I need to create a more inclusive space? Is it really a very male dominated field?
It is so male dominated, like especially so in Nova Scotia. There's very few videographers, especially wedding videographers. Sometimes they come out of the woodwork, but weddings are so tough that I find, they start one year and then they're like, no, this isn't for me. But yeah, it's very male dominated. And I've experienced so many different things. Like, for instance, my business partner, Kristen, and I, we were actually selected to help judge a skills competition at our former college. So we were the judges, but of course we were young women judging a video, production thing. And there was one of the men, he was acting like we were the students, and we had to be like, no, no, we are the judges. So it's just like, I think it's very surprising to a lot of people that I do video. And when I explain to them how male dominated it is, it's pretty crazy. Like, if you walk into any news station, any production company, I'm sure 95% of those people are going to be men. I
Mhm.
remember I was recently hosting a pageant, and one of the tech people was a woman. And I was like, I am so happy to see you here. I'm a videographer. Like, I know the struggle. And she was like, oh my gosh. And we were just talking all about the struggles that we go through. And she was like, you would never believe, like, if someone's having a technical difficulty, they'll go to her and be like, where's the sound guy? And she's like, I am the
Mm.
sound guy. So it's tough, but I think facing these challenges is what makes me stronger in the long run.
I never thought about that before, and I know I'm kind of shocked at myself because I come from a performance background, and I never really thought about the fact that so many like stage managers, directors, people behind the scenes, they tend to be male. And
Yeah.
I don't see enough women in those fields. And I never really thought about the fact how it translates to video and television and those areas. And it's so true. Like, we need more women in those spaces because you think about the fact that not so long ago, uh, most flight attendants were female. So we call them stewardesses, right? Whereas now we see guys in those spaces too. So it's the same kind of idea that we need to stop thinking of a profession just being this gender or that gender.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, you mentioned Olympic style weightlifting, and
Yeah,
I have watched your videos, and you all need to follow her Instagram, which I will connect to this video, of course. But please tell me, how did you get started doing that? And what keeps you going in that? Because again, that's probably another male dominated area.
definitely. I don't know what it is with me and these male dominated things, but I keep going up. So I've gotten into Olympic style weightlifting 8 years ago, and I'm just the type of person who always needs to be involved in something. I am just a competitive kind of person, and I just like to be busy. And I used to do baton twirling, and I did that for 10 years and I loved it, but it was time to retire. And I was like, okay, I need to be involved in something. I haven't found pageantry at this point. So I went into a CrossFit gym and I tried a CrossFit workout. I loved it. It was like one of the hardest things ever. But the thing I really liked about CrossFit was actually like the Olympic style weightlifting aspect of it, which is the
Mm,
snatch, clean and jerk. So I'll never forget, I was doing the workout a little bit slow because I was focusing on my technique in those aspects. And the coach came up to me, he was like, why are you going so slow? And I was like, well, I want to do it right. And he was like, oh, you should come to Olympic style weightlifting. So then I showed up and I really fell in love with it. I love the fact that I don't know if this is just me personally in it, but I'm never really comparing myself to those around me. I'm always trying to better myself,
yeah.
always trying to chase that new personal best, which is just like, it's a great life lesson to always just keep pushing yourself. And you have to be really mentally strong, because I get scared all the time when I have to pull myself under like really heavy weights. It's
Mm.
scary. Like, it's so important to push yourself to do things that are scary. And yeah, I honestly can't imagine my life without doing some aspect of Olympic style weightlifting.
I think that's fantastic. I don't do Olympic style weightlifting, but I do like to lift weights. There's just something about um like you were talking about pushing yourself to see what your limits are, but again, but not being insane because you don't want to injure yourself. But there's just something, so I don't know, for you, it's so fulfilling to me when I finished a workout and I'm like, yeah, I did that. I've lifted, this amount of weight and I feel stronger. Like, what's the payoff for you when you do it?
So I could show up to the gym in an awful mood, like I could be tired, just not feeling it, and then I finish my workout and I'm like so proud of myself. I feel so much more accomplished. My body feels better. I actually have arthritis in my
Mm.
knees, ankles, and thankfully it's like pretty maintainable now thanks to modern medicine. Gotta love that. But I actually find movement helps me. So if I didn't go to the gym, I think I would be more stiff. But yeah, I think just the payoff of being proud of yourself for showing up to something and just knowing like what your body is capable of is it's just such an amazing feeling.
Yeah, it is that feeling of I accomplished this. This
Yes.
is something that no one can take away from me. It's my own thing. And along those lines, since my whole mantra with this podcast is being fearless, is there something that you had to push through in order to either do your platform or to do weightlifting? Like, what type of fear did you have to push through in order to get to the other side?
So the first thing that comes to mind is when I was first starting my business. I was 19 years old. I didn't know how to run a business. Sometimes still I don't even know if I know how to run a business, but I'll never forget I got together with a family member of mine and they were helping me and Kristen file our first year's worth of taxes because we had no idea what we were doing. And he saw how little money we made. Of course, what business makes, lots of money
Right.
in their first year. Very lucky if you can do that. And he said, if you're not going to make any money at this, you should go get a real job. And those words, I was like, because I was so naive, but I think it played in my favor being 19, starting this business. I was like, yeah, I'm going to make videos. This is so fun. People are paying me. Like, this is great. And then when he said that, I was taken aback and I was like, wait, do I need to go get a quote unquote real job? But those words stuck with me. I mean, that happened like 8 years ago and I'm still talking about it today. But I've taken those words as fuel to kind of
Yeah.
like continue my drive to go forward with Arrow and Not Productions. And looking back, I'm like, I wish I could just shake them and tell my younger self, be like, no, don't listen to him. Keep pushing forward. Like you got this. So yeah, I just think it's like it was scary when he said that. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, like I need to get a real job. Um, but yeah, I'm happy that he said that to me because I don't know if I would be as motivated as I am today.
And let's talk about that for a minute. The phrase get a real job. Like, why do you suppose there is this perception that being an entrepreneur is not a quote unquote real job? Like, why do you think there is still this stigma around people starting their own business? Uh, as a performer, I dealt with that a little bit as well when I was going on the audition circuit. That it wasn't often, thank God. I have a very supportive family, but every now and then I would get these comments of, "Oh, well, how long are you going to do that for?" Like somehow this wasn't like a real thing for me. So why do you? This again, this is just your own theory, but why do you suppose we have this type of perception about entrepreneurs not doing a real job?
I'm not too sure. I honestly think that I find like the younger generation, because being your own boss is so much more like popular nowadays.
Hmm.
I feel like maybe the younger generation is like, oh no, that's like a real job. She started a business. How cool. But I just find some older generations, they're like, oh, you're not a nurse, you're not a teacher. Like,
Right.
what is your job? Like it's so hard. My nanny, God love her, she is still confused like what I do for a living. Whenever she's on the phone with my mom, she's like, does Jane have work? Like I think she's always worried about me. So I don't know, I think it's just hard for them to understand that people need videos for their businesses, their
Right.
wedding events, but it's just a hard thing to wrap their heads around. I don't know, but I'm really hoping that that quote unquote real job stigma will soon come to an end.
I'd hope so too. I think there is still a perception of if you're not in like in a brick and mortar type of place, that it's not a place of business. Obviously, I mean, the idea of where we work has changed so much, or the past, even 10 years has changed significantly. One thing that I wanted to ask you about, like, do you find it difficult to ask people for what your services are worth?
Yes. Okay. I love this question because in the beginning, we were asking, I think it was like $1,000 for like us shooting for hours on end. You get the longest video, all the raw footage. And I was like, oh my God, $1,000. Like you get 500, I get 500, like Kristen and I. And I thought that was so much money. And then gradually, as you know, we're more experienced, we realized that that's actually not maintainable and we're worth so
Mhm.
much more. So our prices went up like every year. And I find now I'm finally at the part where we have our packages and I don't feel bad about sending those to potential clients, but I used to. I used to
Yeah.
be so nervous being like, okay, I just wanted to be like, okay, this is how much it is, but then it explained myself. But I find finally 8 years later, I'm like very confident in our work and what we offer. So yeah, it's definitely been a journey in realizing my worth, but I think I'm finally there, which is so crazy to say.
And I read somewhere, I can't remember where it was, but men who apply for jobs are more likely to apply for something where they're not fully qualified for them than women are. If they don't feel they've met all of the requirements of a position, they won't apply. And I think somehow, I don't know where we've gotten this message as women, but we're somehow not allowed to ask for what we're worth. I have
Mhm.
no idea where that comes from, but I know it's prevalent. Like, I've spoken to so many women who have felt the same way. They feel like they have to apologize for asking for what they're worth. Do you have any idea where that comes from? Of course, we're just spitballing here, but I'm always curious where that comes from.
It is like my life's goal for women to become as confident as men are. It blows my mind. Like, are you on TikTok at all?
I am.
Okay, so there was this trend that was going around where women would ask their male partners, like, do you think you could fly a plane or land a plane? It was. And they were like, yeah, like zero knowledge about planes.
Mhm.
And all these men are like, I could land a plane. I asked my partner, Nick, he was like, yeah, I could land a plane. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, men literally know nothing about planes yet think they could land one, but yet
Mhm.
women don't know our value and are scared to ask for raises and scared to apply for jobs that might be a little bit out of their, knowledge. So I really don't know why it is, but it's my life goal for women to become as confident as men are. I don't know where they get it from, but I'm so jealous. I'm like, can women all act like this, please?
Yeah, right? Like,
It's
I
so
would love to see that happen where all women just have that same level of confidence. Now, full disclosure, no, don't put me behind the pilot seat. I have no idea what I'm doing, but but I think it's kind of a metaphor too, because when I started this podcast, I've never done a podcast before. I didn't really know how you make one. I just kind of read about it and decided, well, I'm going to need this, this, and this. And then I know how to communicate with people. So I just decided, well, I'm just going to go and see what happens. And it keeps growing. And I think that's the key. You learn as you go.
really.
And I know our coach has said um, something to the effect of, if you don't know, do it anyway. I think that's what she has mentioned in the past. And that's something I've held on to. So,
Another thing that a
yeah.
similar thing that's like that we use in business all the time is done is better than perfect.
Hmm.
Because I think many of the time, like for instance, starting your podcast, you could, keep putting it off, keep researching because you want to be it's so perfect. But it's like,
Right.
no, you're gonna jump in, learn as you go. And I think that's how great things happen.
Absolutely. And if we screw up, we screw up. You learn from it and you move on.
Yeah.
So you are going to roll international Ms. I should say, very soon. What's the dates again?
So I'm like, I don't even know what today is, but I know
Today
that
is
I
July
leave.
4th.
Oh, right. How could I forget? Happy birthday, America, you know? So I leave for Florida from Halifax, Nova Scotia on Saturday, which is the 6th.
Wow.
And then I will be in competition the 7th until the 13th, which I've never done a pageant that's that long before, but I'm ready. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, when I put this episode up, you will be at the pageant. So tell me, what is it about this pageant that drew you to it?
So after I wrapped my former title, I knew that I still wanted to be in pageants. Like pageantry to me, I've met some of my best girlfriends from there. It's such great to connect with these women and build your self-confidence and push yourself.
Mhm.
So when I was looking around at different pageant systems, and I loved that Royal International Ms. like also prioritizes community service as well as like the glamorous aspects of pageantry that I love so much. And then I'll never forget, I was in the airport. I had just handed over my former title, and I was with one of my sister queens, and we were kind of talking about, what I should do next. And she was like, you should do Royal International Ms. She was like, I've been there. The stage is literally iconic. And I looked up the stage and I was just felt this tie to it. I was like, oh my God, that is the most beautiful stage I've ever seen. And coming from Canada, we don't have crazy stages like that. So I just knew that I wanted to represent my country on that iconic stage.
That's so exciting. And, there's just something about when you find the right system, you just know, you just feel it in your heart.
Yeah.
And, we all know that pageantry judging is subjective. There are no guarantees of anything. But what is it that you're hoping to get out of your experience, Jane?
I know I feel like I need to I'm just the person who puts so much pressure on herself. I'm
Mm,
never the type of person that just goes and I'm like, I'm just gonna have the best time. And I'm so envious of those people because that's who I want to be.
yeah.
So out of this experience, I want to put my best foot forward. I want to show up fully on that stage like I've been dreaming of for like a year now and really showcase all of my hard work as well as just like get to my roommate Nicole, who's also on Team Canada. I get to spend time with her and the rest of Team Canada, meet the girls from Australia, the UK. Like it's a truly an international pageant, which I'm so excited about. But yeah, I want myself to realize that whatever is in God's plan will be. If it's meant for me, I will get it. If not,
Yeah.
I will have learned so much from the experience, have met so many amazing women. So I think I'll just leave the rest up to the universe.
And that's the thing is, as for myself, who is a pageant queen, I just want to come, as the best version of myself and to enjoy every moment and to know that I have brought everything that I can
Yeah.
and know that I have no regrets. And I can tell that about you too. And we've been talking and I'm like, oh my goodness, we're getting close to our timing. But I need to ask you, what is something that makes you feel fabulous? Like what, it could be a small thing, a large thing. Let us know, what is it makes Jane feel fabulous?
So I'll do kind of a superficial one and then more like of a heartfelt one. But the superficial one is a spray tan. Like
Hmm.
I wish that I just loved my natural skin, which I do, but I love a nice even spray tan, a nice glow. Like, the saying, if you can't tone it, you tan it. Like you just feel like a woman. It's so fun. But then truly what makes me feel fabulous is making other women feel fabulous. Like there's nothing more. I love doing that. Even if I'm scrolling Instagram and I see a girl I know like post something she might not normally post, I always make sure to hype her up if I'm out with
Mm.
my friends, like just making everyone feel like their most confident self because I feel like I'm at a point in my life where I'm my most confident self and I'm so happy here. So I just want to make all the women feel like that too.
I love that. I mean, if you know, the great RuPaul says, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love anybody else? Can I get an amen in
Amen.
here?
I know.
And that's the key is just being able to love who you are in this moment. And if you don't necessarily, what can you do to make yourself feel a little more in love with yourself and then to spread that with other people?
Yeah.
So, Jane, tell me what, can you give our listeners like one last piece of advice in terms of trying to be fearless or fabulous? Like, what would you say to somebody who doesn't feel so fearless or fabulous?
I think that it's important to one, and this is something I still work on every single day, is to not let other people's opinions worry you.
Mhm.
Um, I think there's another RuPaul quote. It's like, if they're not paying your bills, pay
Yeah.
them no times.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's really like once I kind of let that go, I became so much happier. And I think something like in letting people's opinions go, doing things that I might find, I was like, oh, is this cringy? Like going live on my Instagram, really pushing myself, doing face on Instagram stories, which used to be so scary for me. I would just be like, okay, just do it. Who cares what people think? This is going to make
Yeah.
you happy. I think it's important to do things that scare you.
Yes.
Like I would not be doing I still get scared all the time before pageants. I remember right before I go into the interview room, I'm like, why do I do this to myself? And then I get in there, I'm like, this was so fun. Like I truly have the best time. And then afterwards, I'm so proud of myself. So I think it's so important to not, let people's opinions bother you. And yeah, do things that scare you. If you're not doing things that scare you, you're probably not growing as a person.
That's what's what. That's
Yeah.
what's what. Jane, you are a force. You are a beacon of light. You are just amazing. And I'm so grateful that I've gotten to meet you through, our mutual coach and working on the Queen Collective, which, by the way, if you all need a good coach, you need to hit up Maria, the pageant gal. But thank you so much for coming on the Fearless and Fabulous podcast. It is the space to thrive no matter your age or size. And I will link your socials, and best of luck to you in your pageant. You're going to be amazing.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.
And it was so great to have you. And please come back to the space often. Like, comment, and subscribe. Share this episode with a friend. And I'll see you again soon.